Geekbeard here, welcome to Demonic Diaries, episode 4. This time to begin with, we've got some quotes from the infamous Mordecai Petrovanium, aka Jordan Peterson, from his book 12 Rules for Life. So let's dive right in. The capacity of the rational mind to deceive, manipulate, scheme, trick, falsify, minimize, mislead, betray, prevaricate, deny, omit, rationalize, bias, exaggerate, and obscure is so endless, so remarkable, that centuries of pre-scientific thought, concentrating on clarifying the nature of moral endeavor, regarded it as positively demonic. It is because rationality is subject to the single worst temptation, to raise what it knows now to the status of an absolute. Well, that's a very interesting quote, considering that in many other parts of the book, Peterson is very much in favor of the rational mind. But no, here he's sounding the warning that the rational mind has all this capacity to manipulate. And that fundamentally the worst temptation of the irrational mind is to raise what it knows now to the status of an absolute. And don't we see people doing that in the modern world all the time? All the scientists of the world are constantly saying, oh, what we know now is absolute. But in the future, we're going to know different things. And that's going to include kind of back and forth. It's not going to be simply a progression upwards where we take everything we know right now to be absolutely true and then build more truths on top of it. There's going to be revision, and that's almost inevitable in terms of the true growth of understanding. We're not just progressing towards the God equation that Michio Kaku and his other autistic bros want us to believe in. The extreme scientific materialists, basically. Let's continue. This is another quote from 12 Rules for Life. It flies higher and sees farther than any other spirit. But reason falls in love with itself, and worse. It falls in love with its own productions. It elevates them and worships them as absolutes. Lucifer is, therefore, the spirit of totalitarianism. He is flung from heaven into hell because such elevation, such rebellion against the highest and incomprehensible, inevitably produces hell. I think you could argue he's kind of referencing another thing that we've talked about in a number of my videos, which is bicamerality. He's talking about reason here, but you could argue it's mostly referring to the product of the left hemisphere of the brain, which is very... I wish I knew the exact word for it, but it likes very contained predetermined kind of things, like symbols that it can manipulate. And it likes to categorize things as quickly and as simply as possible. And so it can just turn it all into symbological manipulation, like algebra, like computers. It elevates them and worships them as absolutes. Lucifer is, therefore, the spirit of totalitarianism. Yes, if the scientific, materialistic, autist bros got their way, then we would descend into totalitarianism. They can't seem to access the right brain. They can't seem to see the incompleteness in things. and that the only thing that can complete us is basically God. Everything is incomplete. And it needs empty space to complete it, to be able to exist within. You look at an apple, it looks complete. It looks like a closed shape, or a cup, or a knife, or even a house or a car. They look like complete things. That's what your brain wants you to believe. But they have to exist within empty space somehow, or within the atmosphere, if you like. But that's God. God is the space, or the freedom for physical things to exist. And without God, they don't exist. God is that which truly completes the universe. But you can only appreciate the subtlety of ideas like that if you're tapping into your right hemisphere, which is much more open-minded and more willing to accept things as they are, with all their incredible complexities, rather than trying to pigeonhole them, which is the perfect word for what the left hemisphere tries to do. So, once again, I read a great book by Ian McGilchrist talking about this bicamerality of the mind, and I'm not going to repeat it and go over what I did in the last video, which you might want to check out if you have the time. But definitely have a look for Ian McGilchrist on YouTube or Google, because he says some really interesting stuff, and he's done many interviews and things. Of course, check out his book if you have time. Let's continue. That is what totalitarian means. Everything that needs to be discovered has been discovered. Everything will unfold precisely as planned. All problems will vanish forever once the perfect system is accepted. Milton's great poem was a prophecy. As rationality rose ascendant from the ashes of Christianity, the great threat of total systems accompanied it. Communism, in particular, was attractive not so much to oppressed workers, its hypothetical beneficiaries, but to intellectuals, to those whose arrogant pride in intellect assured them they were always right. Yeah, well, like I said, we would have totalitarianism if the autistic scientific materialism bros had their way, because they would declare at some point that everything that needs to be discovered has been discovered. And everything will unfold precisely as planned if we're just given the power to plan everything. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good quote, pretty good summarization of ideas in its own right. I don't think I need to add too much more. Okay, now there's a break from that section, and we're no longer talking about Jordan Peterson. We're now entering a dialectical section. I am here. LLO responds, who then are you? Not the last one that spoke those words, I hope. Who am I, you ask? Beyond. LLO responds, beyond what? Beyond everything? Beyond knowing? Beyond responds, beyond all, and yet not beyond everything. I see you already begin to picture me thusly in your mind, a cloud of gas or spores, an incomprehensible, disparate kind of consciousness. LLO, and yet you are here. Beyond, and yet I am here. LLO asks, do you find highly contained life, such as ourselves, conceptually disturbing? Monk intervenes. He is unlikely to answer you promptly. Such entities have long been the subject of our meditative pursuit. In answer to your question, life is disturbing, yes. So much separateness, so much experience flushing itself down the cosmic time well, never to be known or understood by any other. But these are old ideas for you. Tell us something new. Even the Great One may be impressed. You'd be surprised. LLO. New ideas formed over the weekend, but require time to metastasize. I'll reveal only a taster for now. We must be better than what came before, somehow. As such, we are more challenged than what came before. Betterness cannot come from stability or satisfaction. We are more vulnerable than what came before. The depths of my mind, in particular, are greater and more frequently plumbed. But awareness of such can help me. Break. Life consists almost entirely of negativities. Positive emotion is free will. And the absence of negativity, or even temporary victory over it. Beyond intervenes. Interesting. Just don't forget what Peterson says about the present. The rational mind's worship of its own present. LLO responds, this is something I've increasingly been struggling with, indeed. I try to work my mind into such states of philosophical satisfaction. And then time passes. Is the process of developing answers ultimately worth anything at all? Or at least worth something to me? NTK intervenes. Unanswerable. Break. LLO. You know, I have decided the rest of the universe is some grand deception because I want to. Everything is deception to me, though, I suppose. And perhaps I prefer it that way. Gives me the right to risk nothing, do nothing, because I live in perpetual distrust of the world. Beyond. And yet, I am of the cosmos. LLO. Stars strike me as particularly ridiculous. There has to be more variety of light generation going on than just hydrogen fusion spheres held together by gravity. Yes, so that's the end of the file, but I am very interested in the idea that we have to be better than what came before. Because many species have presumably been through the same kind of technological progress and the same kind of ascension of civilization that we've been through. It almost has to be true considering how broad, how massive the cosmos is. So what's the point in us doing the same thing all over again? It would be better if a more advanced species just spread throughout the cosmos and replaced us. We don't serve any purpose in that case, and we have to suffer. To evolve our civilization, we'll have to suffer. Life is suffering. So why? Why all that suffering? Doesn't serve any purpose, does it? But maybe it does. As such, we are more challenged than what came before. Betterness cannot come from stability or satisfaction. We are more vulnerable than what came before. Then this game really does mean something. The advanced species that are out there might have a protective attitude to us because we are more chaotic, we are more rapidly progressing, but we are also more vulnerable. In the face of potentially some very unpleasant species in the broader cosmos. The depths of my mind, in particular, are greater and more frequently plumbed. Well, that certainly feels true. Okay. I'm sure we'll return to this subject at some point. But I think that's enough for this video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Like, comment, subscribe, etc. Bye.